This is Saskia, and this is Note to Self, your weekly dose of everything that's simply too long to text. Consider this your personal invitation into my inner circle, where I share my thoughts, feelings, and quiet reflections that usually live inside my Notes app. Thanks for joining me. Hello, Note to Self. We have a special bonus episode this week. Oh my God. My face just went mental just then. 2 episodes? What did you just say? I can hear that's what you're saying. You're welcome. I felt like I had to do a bonus episode this week because it was one of my all-time favorite events of the year on Monday, and I had to discuss some of my favorite looks. It was the Met Gala, the Costume Institute's night of the year. It's one of my favorite nights. I love fashion and I love costume and I love art. Give it all to me. Give me a red carpet look. Give me a red carpet moment. I want a whole performance, which I never usually get, but when I do, I eat it up. I am so pumped for it. So I felt like I had to discuss the event. So jumping straight in, the exhibition this year is called Costume Art, and the dress code was Fashion is Art. The curator, Andrew Bolton, described it as exploring the indivisible connection between our bodies and the clothes we wear. And I had to Google, I was like, indivisible. I was like, I've not used that word before. And apparently it's something, it means it's impossible to divide. So you can't separate it. And it describes a single entity. So essentially describing how fashion and our bodies and the clothes we wear are really one, which is very true and very poignant. So the idea that fashion isn't just decoration, but an embodied art form in its own right. And guests were invited to express their own relationship to fashion as an embodied art form and celebrate the countless depictions of the dress body throughout art history. The exhibition itself was notable for featuring 25 new mannequins modeled after diverse body types, which is a direct challenge to the traditional size 2 museum mannequins that you often always see in kind of fashion exhibits. So the intention of that was to really show a diverse range of real bodies with real lived experiences, is what they quoted. So the theme, actually, when I looked into it more, was actually less about referencing specific artworks, though many did that, and many of my favorite works and my favorite outfits, were ones that referenced specific artworks. Apparently, it was more about asking, what does it mean to wear art? And where does the body end and the garment begin? And that's that question of the theme of it being indivisible. It's connected. There is no break in a way. But I thought what was really interesting is when I was looking through some of my looks and I was looking at some of the art that they were inspired by, is that a lot of designers and artists interpreted the theme through the female body specifically. So you saw the statue Venus de Milo appeared twice. The Winged Victory was referenced, the Black Madonna, Alan Jones's body sculptures. And it kind of makes sense because these are some of the most iconic depictions of the dressed and undressed body in art history, specifically the female body. But there's something interesting about the fact that on a night where it was asking where does the body end and the garment begin, so many people answered that question by looking at how women's bodies have been depicted and celebrated throughout history. And I really think that says something. I think there's a beautiful connection between the female body and art and fashion, and it's all kind of wrapped into one. And I think I've always struggled with this a little bit myself because some of my favorite artwork is referencing the female body, but then I also think we've also sexualized the female body from so long ago. It's always been sexualized. And I know that there's also depictions of male bodies as well, but look, primarily it's a lot of women. But then another part of me is also like, the female body's stunning. We're so beautiful. Like we create life. Like, gosh, we should be celebrated. So it's a little bit of both. But I really do like that because I feel like fashion for me is my own way of expressing to the world what I look like, how I feel on the inside, and it's who I am. And I get so excited to go into my wardrobe and play with my different outfits and come up with cool looks and things that I wouldn't always think go together. And it feels like my own expression of art, and it is an art form. So This always means so much to me every year. I love this night, what I would do to be invited. Oh my God. Anna Wintour, if you're listening, please invite me. I would be such a good guest, I promise. I'd wear a sick outfit. But it really is such a beautiful depiction of art and how fashion plays into that. So really going into some of my fave looks from the night, I wanted to kick off with Tiana Taylor, who wore this full silver metallic fringe dress, and it had a matching cap. It was by Tom Ford under Hayder Ackerman, who is the designer there at the moment. The fringe really moved like this liquid metal, and she walked up the steps. It was just moving with her. And she had these like high silver platforms shoes. And I think that was really interesting because of the way the outfit was made. It was like you could only see bits of her face. And it really was that question of like where the garment began and where the garment ended, she began. And it was just this one fluid movement. Loved that. She's such a queen and so hot. I'm obsessed with her. Next up, I loved Sabrina Carpenter. She wore a Dior dress by Jonathan Anderson. The dress was made entirely from film strips, which were taken from Audrey Hepburn's movie Sabrina, which is a lovely play on her name as well. Had this high neck corseted bodice and these like ribbon film strip layers that were going out that spilled into a skirt. She had a diamond headpiece and this bedazzled string that was connected to her fingers and the back of her dress that kind of looked like wings. And it was very like had her, classic pinup girl vibe, but then also referencing film, which I think is another art form. And I loved people playing into different art forms and what art means to them here. And it so like represented who she was from her style and her her kind of vibe with, I think, referencing a lot of the pinup girls from, I guess it was the 40s. So next was Kim Kardashian, who traditionally I either love her looks or sometimes I'm like, I just feel like I always see you in the same thing. And I mean, she does kind of do similar silhouettes, but I think the story of what she did is sick and deserves some props. So she wore this hard shelled, body molded, like orange breastplate that really encased her in, it was almost like a bodysuit. And it had these like pointed nipple covers or like pointed out with nipples at the end. And Kim apparently worked with her creative director, Nadia Lee Cohen, and they reached out to the sculptor, Alan Jones, because she's always loved his work. They both loved his work. And they created this piece directly with him. So Jones is a British pop artist, and he's famous for these provocative fiberglass structures of the female body. And Kim's tangerine breastplate that was created was directly inspired by his 1978 work Body Armor, which was originally made for an unreleased film, and then later it was revisited in this photo shoot featuring Kate Moss. So for Kim's tangerine breastplate, Jones repurposed a cast from she was saying it was like 1967 or 1968, but she had mentioned how she wanted something original. She quotes, "I didn't want to cast my own body. At first, and she said, I wanted something original." So originally, apparently, the breastplate was meant to be pink, and the pair later decided to go forth with Jones's classic orange, which was the look that was seen on Kate Moss. But I love that she didn't cast her own body because she's often used her own body in the pieces that she's done. And it was cool to like reference the body armor from an original piece he did. And then she turned to these artisans that were behind Whitaker Malem to create this attached hand-painted leather skirt that was on the bottom part of the bodice. I felt like it was this like really interesting living sculpture. And what was so cool is they finished the entire piece in an auto body shop, which I loved. It was just so cool to like have it done in an auto body shop, really like living to that theme of art and body and where it begins and where it ends. And I also think it's interesting, like her body itself has been really changed, obviously, a lot of bodies in our society generally. I mean, they've had such a huge influence, and having her body kind of being represented in this look, I think tied into that as well. Whether it's for the better or not, who knows, but is no denying it that they've had an influence. Now, next up, Emma Chamberlain. So, she wore this sick custom Mugler by Miguel Castro Friete. I should have Googled this. It's the Mugler designer. What was interesting is he did the dress, but then Chamberlain commissioned a Chicago-born artist and designer, Anna Yai to paint this custom dress. So the dress was kind of created in collaboration with this artist and then the Muglier's creative director. So the dress really reminded me of an artist's paint palette. So the top of it almost looked like it was 3D. I would have loved to like touched it. It looked like the paint was like thick and drying, where you have an artist's paint palette and it's all the beautiful colors that they've mixed together. And it's like the paint just started going down the dress and flowing out into almost what looked like a watercolor or something. And it had these really long fringe pieces on her hands. So it really like moved with her hands as well. It was so fucking cool. It might have been my favorite look of the night, which is a big one to say, but I just felt like it was a beautiful mix of movement and artistry and again, like her body morphing into it as well. It felt very her. She's very colorful and bubbly. And it was so beautifully well done. Then next up, I have Kylie Jenner. I've got a few Kardashians on here, which surprisingly, they don't always do, but I thought they did a pretty good job this year. So Kylie actually coordinated with coordinated with a Kendall with a nipple bearing look. There we go. Kendall's I will get to because I have qualms with it. But Kylie's was very on brand, and she was in this Schiaparelli, very surrealist bodyist sculpture aesthetic. And her look referenced the Venus de Milo, the ancient Greek sculpture of Aphrodite. So the piece was like the top part, again, it looked like it was like meant to be like a sculpture, where you have like, they sculpture a naked woman. So it was this nude kind of corset that looked like a sculpture from the front. And then the dress kind of fell over it, where it looked like it was almost you're undressing, you're stepping out of your dress. So it really was that beautiful reference of stepping out of your clothes into your body, but it being this one motion in this dress. It was really, really well done. I really, really, really liked her look. Then Kendall worked with Gap and Zac Posen. So her dress was inspired by the winged victory of Samothrace, I think is how you say it. It's this really beautiful sculpture that I've seen. It's one of my favorites, so I should know how to say it, but it's at the Louvre in Paris. And it's, when you look at it, it kind of goes up these stairs and it's right in the middle of this walkway. There's stairs coming down each side and these lights shine in. So throughout, natural light, there's these windows. So throughout the day, as the sun kind of changes, you sometimes get these beautiful shots of the sunlight coming through, and it creates this really majestic look. And it's this this naked woman with with these big wings, and it's so, so, so beautiful. And I've always loved it. So her look was inspired by that. And I remember seeing it and I was like, where are the wings? Like, it would be so cool if it had wings. And it had kind of the same look as Kylie's, where the dress was falling down and it was this bodice with the nipple. So it almost looked like, not her real nipple, but like the shape of it. And I realized afterwards that apparently the dress did have wings. She put them on when she was inside the Met. And I was like, what the hell? Why would you not have done the carpet with wings? It seems like such a miss to me. And I thought about it. I was like, if that was me, I would have been like, let's make this a moment. Have the wings. The production element of this might be a little insane, but you have like a light that maybe could shine in and create this really interesting shadow, which might not work because of how bright it is, but stay with me here. So imagine you have that cool light shining in like it does in the Louvre, where it shines in and you have that cool shadow of the sunlight. And then the wings come up and she like poses with the wings behind her, like moving forward. Oh my God, it would be so sick. But I just think that Kendall's not super risky, and that's like a whole performance. I don't think she's a performer. She's not an actor. And I think you need to be performative to be able to do that. But I had this whole vision. I was like, that would have been so sick. So that one kind of bummed me out. Another one that I loved, Alex Consani. So she made history as the first trans woman on the Met Gala committee, on the host committee. Love that. We love this. She wore this sheer Gucci gown that was like a nude, tooled, corseted bustier. And then it had this voluptuous feathered skirt and train that was black. And over top of it, when she walked into the carpet, she had this huge, just white, fluffy kind of coat thing. It was a big cape. And then she took the cape off and revealed this gorgeous dress. And it was such a dramatic moment. And apparently the way that she described the reveal is she said the best way to describe it is white swan to black swan. And I loved it. I loved that it was a reference to, the black and white swan, and you could think of like Black Swan the movie, or just, that motif of the swans anyways. And it was just so, so beautiful. And I really, really loved that. Again, the nude elements of morphing into her skin, the feathers, it felt very visceral. I really loved her look. Next was Chase Infinity. She wore this super cool sequin encrusted multicolored gown that was inspired by the female form. It had over 1.5 million individual sequins that were custom. Crazy. And this was actually the second look of the night that referenced the Venus de Milo, at least from the ones I picked. There might have been others that referenced it, which was similar. It was same as what Kylie Jenner's Schiaparelli look referenced. So 2 different designers, but the same reference point. And I just think that sculpture being so famous, like no wonder why a lot of people felt inspired by it and referenced looks around it. But it just had all these beautiful colors, and it looked like brush strokes. So it was like kind of mimicking art in like a painting way as well. And this is her like big kind of year with her having done one battle after another. And she's on this big press junket since doing that and going to all her first Met Gala. And I just thought it was such a cool look for your first gala, and it was really a showstopper. Loved that one. My next one that I loved is Madonna. Oh, Madonna. She gave us a show. So she wore this black Saint Laurent gown with this pirate ship headpiece, accompanied down the red carpet by 7 blindfolded female helpers who held up her dress, and they each had like a long train that they were holding up. It was pure theater, very Madonna. And the look actually referenced a painting, and it's called The Temptation of Saint Anthony, Fragment 2 by Leonora Carrington. So she's a surrealist painter. I love surrealist painters. Their art is so interesting, and you can just look at it for so long and come up with a different feeling every time you look at the artwork. So apparently, this artist was also an inspiration point for Madonna's classic bedtime story music video. So I thought that was cool when looking at something of what fashion means to you, and the distinction is she's pulling an artist that she felt inspired by and then building that into her look, and then having that as part of her whole story. And you really see the distinction when you see the painting and her look right next to each other. It was purely the same look. It was a really, really cool moment, and I love to see theater. I want more theater on the carpet. Next up, Odessa Zion. She's so fucking beautiful and cool. This was her first Met Gala. I loved her in I Love LA. She's amazing, and she was also in Marty Supreme. So she actually did her own hair and makeup for the event, which props to her. Her hair and makeup always looks spectacular as well. Apparently she does her hair and makeup a lot, because she said, I quote, "I have a problem with too many people touching me." Honestly, fair. You'd probably be so overwhelmed. But it's so cool to go to the Met Gala when people spend all this money to look like this. And she's like, fuck it, I'm just going to do my own hair and makeup. And she looked so sick. She wore this amazing Valentino look with these bedazzled leaf cutouts in her like boobs on like under boob underneath, this black corset. It was like this really long jacket, thigh high boots. She looked so, so cool. And I felt like what I liked about hers was it felt like it was like her look. And it seemed like for something when you're thinking about art and fashion and what fashion means to you, she wore something that was obviously designed, but it felt like her. And this was just like someone who's like, I'm going to pick an outfit that's art and costume, but it's me. And I really, really, really liked that choice. Guys, we've got 3 more and then I'm closing out. So next up, Hudson Williams. My boy, love him. Ugh. For those that have watched Heated Rivalry, you will understand. I would do anything for Ilya, but I would do anything for Hudson Williams. If you know, you know. Anyways, Hudson made his Met Gala debut, and he wore Balenciaga. He had this like open jacket with his bare chest underneath. Yes, please. It looked so good, so jacked. And the highlight for me actually was, because his look was really cool. I didn't do a ton of research into the actual look, but I did look into his makeup because I found his makeup looked sick. So his makeup was actually inspired by the Black Swan, because him and his makeup artist wanted to do a film reference. And he has a go-to makeup, hair, and grooming artist. Their name is Ikai, I think. Flores is how you say it. And apparently the inspiration for the look was the white swan transforming into the black swan. So again, similar to Alex Consani's look. It was a nod to the 2010 film Black Swan. And Flores said, his makeup artist, I was inspired by the idea of transformation, a journey where innocence gives away and grace takes on a darker edge, Flores says. It's like the white swan shedding its softness to become something sharper, untouchable, and entirely reborn. And I thought that is so perfect because, you know, he has had a rebirth in a way and stepping into a whole new chapter of his life with this fame and success he's had since Heated Rivalry and these new opportunities and just new doors opening. And he has this very like sexy, dark energy. So I really loved that rebirth. And his character in Heated Rivalry is more the white swan, is so soft and kind. And maybe it's rebirth from the character he played. I don't know. That's my theory, but I think that was such a cool look. But yeah, again, a beautiful coincidence to see kind of two different individuals referencing the same type of theme. Next was Paloma Elcisser. Yeah, one of this year's host committee members. So her gown was constructed from 100 vintage dresses that were sourced from eBay, which is so cool. So there was pieces from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, and all were deconstructed and rebuilt into this one look. It was such a cool concept. It looked, again, it reminded me of an artist's palette. Again, they're like art palette, but then also it kind of looks surrealist a little bit in terms of like how it was pictured. But again, like now that I keep thinking about the theme, the way it's cut even, like it was really shaped to her figure and morphed into her skin tone with some of the certain colors. And again, I feel like it's that question of, where does the body end and the art begin? Or the fashion begin. I keep referencing it, but kind of learning more about it, you really start to see why there were some choices here that people made. And the last one that I wanted to end on was Anok Yai. She is a Sudanese American model. She made a mood board and she messaged the designer that she worked with, who is the recently installed Balenciaga creative director, and she like begged him to work together. And he said, yes, of course. And together they decided the look needed to be a really strong art piece in line with the theme, but they wanted something more than that. They wanted to send a message. And what they landed on was the Black Madonna, the inspiration, the picture of the Black Madonna. Anok said on the day, in the climate that we're living in right now, we need hope. I feel like being the Black Madonna in a Trump world is going to send that message. And I thought that was such a powerful thing. And I love that she pulled in, a larger message into her look. And she really did that. She had this gold body paint with tears streaming down her face that were like, they must have used like some type of like 3D thing for the tears, and this sweeping black hood. And she didn't wear a look. She just became this like icon. You could really see the Black Madonna behind her. And really, the Black Madonna is a symbol of hope and grief and resilience all in one. And I just really felt like that is fashion as art, if there ever was, and it really sent a message. And I think that's exactly what the night is for, is it's not about these tech giants, it's about the truest expression of art and what it means to you and your body and how it makes you feel and what message do you want to leave in this world. Because when you walk out the door, no matter what you're wearing, you're sending a message depending on what you decided to pick. So that's my Met Gala wrap. I really felt like it was an interesting year. There were some really cool moments that as I started to research more into it, I think sometimes when you see the looks just on the carpet, you don't always totally understand all the references. And there's really cool looks that you're like, wow, that's just designed beautifully. But there's always, for me, it's the story. And I like to pick the ones that visually I connect with and then look into like learning more about the story and what it meant. And I found it incredibly fun and entertaining, and I love doing podcasts. And I hope that you enjoyed my Met Gala 2026 recap. Hope to see me one day, me there one day, guys. Yeah, let's do it. Petition to get Saskia to the Met Gala. Oh my God, I need to stop. I'm closing out. Thanks all. Bye.